Hey guys, it's allegedly Edison Sears here with All Collectibles, and I wanted to go over this short little 25 stack of PSA cards that I just got back. And while we're going over this, I want to talk about why I'm not really going to be grading Pokemon cards with CGC, or really any trading cards with CGC anymore. But let's get into the first one. It's this Mew Tag Team GX Deluxe Starter Set. This is, I believe that this is just like a blister. So you get like promo cards and then some assorted packs. And I thought it was cool with the all over hollow foil, kind of reminiscent of the Best of XY hollow foil pattern, but obviously not as like a rich or dark of a color. But it's just cool artwork with the little Mew tail making a heart up there. That was not a CGC card that I cracked, but I'll call them out when we get to them. Like this, for example, this was a CGC 9 of the Celebi. I just thought it was a pretty cool looking Koro promo, 2019, with cute artwork. This was a CGC 9, so it just crossed over to the same grade at PSA. With the modern stuff, I'm kind of surprised by that. It looked really clean, front and back, so I thought it had a really good chance of crossing to the PSA 10. And, for me personally, it's kind of worth the gamble try to cross-grade them. Because, from my experience at least, the PSA copies of the cards that I have sell faster than their CGC copies in the same exact grade. And at a minimum, I'm getting like a $5 increase in the price for selling a PSA copy of a card versus CGC. So yeah, it just sells faster. It has more watchers, more views on the listings, and they sell for a little bit more. That's like a baseline reason to go with PSA. Even with the cross grades equal at the same, you tend to be able to move the product a little faster. But yeah, that's like part of the idea of regrading or just really sticking with PSA. You tend to just get more views on listings, and views are super important to like just pushing for sales eventually. And it's all about search term optimization on eBay. Just when people are searching cards, I think most people who are looking for graded cards are still typing in PSA Pokemon. And there are ways you can manipulate a CGC listing to come up like that. But why go through those hurdles when I could just grade it with PSA and list it as that? And like a modern card like this, Dark Gyarados, 25th anniversary celebrations. I didn't grade any of these. So I graded these cards when they came out, the 2021 celebration stuff. I bought like the Mew, the Gardevoir, the Garchomps. I believe I had Charizards too. Like, the decent cards from the set sent to CGC, they came back CGC 9.5s across the board. Some dipped as low as CGC 9s for modern. And I'm just going to be straight up, like they're probably the same exact card quality as these copies that are getting PSA 10s. But PSA 10 has such like, there is obviously so much more search activity for PSA 10 Pokemon on eBay, and like you can't even justify the price difference. A CGC 9.5 copy of this card is probably a couple dollars above the raw price at this point, whereas the PSA 10 is where you actually hold some decent value multiplier. And yeah, it's like as simple as that. Like I graded these celebrations cards when they came out. I got 9.5, like I would say 90% of the copies I got 9.5, maybe 1 or 2 10s. But it's the complete opposite. You get 90% 10s grading you with PSA with the modern stuff. Well, this should not have been in this pile, but this is just like a random Bond to the End of Time Bastiodon Hollow. I thought this one was really clean. Like I was going through my a big issue that I have with like organization is stuff just gets like lost in these boxes that I have around. So I'm not sure like what cards I wanted to grade, what cards I didn't want to grade. This one, I pulled this out and I thought it was really clean. So I thought I would chance it. Got the 9, not a great grade, but still really cool artwork. Dark Phantasma, Gengar Hollow. Same thing with like the Dark Gyarados. I've tried to grade the Gengar Hollows in the past with CGC, like the Shiny Star V1, which I love. But that one, I've gotten back in mostly 9s from PSA, from CGC, sorry. But, I send them off to PSA and they come back PSA 10, like across the board. It's like a lot of this stuff. Obviously, if it comes down to if you're trying to maximize the sale price of your stuff and you want to maximize the amount of stuff you're able to sell, it just makes sense to go with PSA and just get the easy 10s on the modern stuff. And here's another example. Celebi from Tag Bolt. This is the secret rare full art with this really awesome Celebi kind of descending from the sky with the light behind him like an angel, and then Venusaur looking up. So I mentioned, I don't think I put the video out where I sent this stuff in, but I mentioned that I actually had this listed for like $30 on eBay because I was just rushing through the listings, and there's an English version of this that's a promo from a tin, and I listed it as the same exact thing. I forgot that this was the Japanese version. It was up for $35, mislabeled, and it didn't sell, which is kind of interesting to me too, because that was probably up for 5 or 6 months before I decided to crack it and send it off. It was CGC 9.5, $35 for this card. This card raw is like $60 now in Japan, and it never sold. So that like kind of says to me, like, how much actual search traction is there on the CGC copies of this card if I can have it mislabeled at 9.5 for $30 and it doesn't sell? You know, maybe the fact that it's mislabeled, some people aren't buying it, but yeah, I mean, regardless, it was a good thing that nobody bought it. I cracked it and it got a PSA 10. And this is like, I think, over $100 card now in 10. And this is these are not good grades from PSA. So this is, I guess, you run into this no matter who you're going to agree with. Some cards come back like well out of line of what you expect. But to get back this modern card in 9, it's quite rough. I don't really see what the issue is. Maybe there's like fat print lines on the hollow foil. But yeah, you really need this to be in high grade. I mean, this not even high grade. This has to be a 10 for it to be worth it. Yeah, so the 8 and the 9 are just straight up. How should I put this? Those are rough. I'm going to hide them below the Bastio on there. But we have King Gambit in a 10. So I graded a couple of Scarlet and Violet cards. I didn't buy too many. I bought the ones that I really like the art of. And something I'm trying to get better at that I've mentioned before is instead of grading 5 copies of a card at a point, I'll buy like 10 or 20 raw copies, and I'll grade 2 every now and then to kind of just make it easier to sell. So I don't have to deal with getting a 100 card PSA sub, but there's so many cards in there that are 4 or 5 copies in there. So it actually, it doesn't make sense. To increase your inventory to do it that way. Another 10 in the Curlia, really cool art. It has there's like the Ralts Curlia and then the Gardevoir. It's like a really nice set to collect. Oh, this is a sick one. Wow, these cards are quite mixed up. This is Miracle Crystal Squirtle PSA 10 Gem Mint, first edition. This really awesome artwork. 2006 Squirtle common PSA 10. I think it's actually kind of surprising to me. How should I say this? It'd probably be quite surprising to find out how many raw copies of this are still out there that could grade 10. I don't think a lot of these cards were that well preserved. I've mentioned in the past that like the commons, uncommons, to my belief, like they just weren't sleeved. So you would get the hollows, the ultra rares, people would sleeve them, and then the commons, uncommons would just be left in like, binders, in boxes, all stacked up, raw, rubbing up against each other. Dark Phantasm Gengar, just another 10. Actually, I did really good on these. Exact thing that I talked about, like in the past, I probably would have sent in 5 copies of this Gengar at once, but I went with just 2 copies to get them graded. And this is like another cross grade failure. This was a CGC 9, and I think I auctioned this off twice. The first time I auctioned this off, it went for like $45, didn't get paid for. Second time I auctioned it off in CGC 9, went for $35, it didn't get paid for. And at that point, the price of this card raw was double the CGC 9 price that I was able to get it in auction. And yeah, I just decided to crack it. But what's really rough with these, I noticed with this and the Stormy V is, obviously you have the print line across the middle. That's probably not helping it at all. And then the edges on this card are so rough, in my opinion. They're like kind of raised, like it's not really done too well. But yeah, the CGC 9 to the PSA 9, probably still a little bit faster and easier. And like, it does suck because, if I sell this now, I probably won't, I lose the $15 essentially, but you're kind of hoping that the PSA 9 sells a little bit faster, and just the upside, like the potential profit that you would get from getting the PSA 10 makes it worth it to cross that out and kind of chance it. At least in my opinion, it made sense. Marnie Trainer Card Collection. I think I sold through my initial batch of these like in CGC, like perfect 10s, and I just had some lying around that were like CGC 9.95, and at this point I decided to correct them out because the price had dropped quite a bit, and the market has kind of got to the point where modern stuff has to be in the 10. I keep mentioning that. So yeah, I just decided that I crossed the 9.5s over and got a PSA 10, which is definitely an upgrade in every regard. Red's Challenge from Double Blaze. I believe this was a CGC 9 that I had cracked. And yeah, just like the CGC 9 for this card is essentially the raw price of the card. The PSA 9 price is probably raw plus 15, and then the PSA 10 price is, I think, like double the raw price at the moment. So this is obviously like, these are the stories that we want. Is it just makes it so worth it to get rid of the cards in the CGC slabs that have been sitting. I probably had this Red Challenge in a 9 listed for well over a year at this point. I got these in like 2020, 2021, like super early 2021. Pokemon sent away another card. I believe this was a CGC 9.5. This was CGC 9.5 old label too. So this was graded like, I probably graded this at the end of 2020 is when I sent this in. And I had it up for sale, 9.5. I think it probably got delisted at some point, and then it was relisted and it just wasn't moving. So yeah, like there's no reason for me to try to like struggle to sell this in the CGC grade when I could just chance it, cross grade it, and if it bumps up to that 10, it'll be a much faster mover. So again, like these are like the positive stories, and you know, the Garchomps are whatever. As long as they're not really going down in grade, I think we're pretty happy with it. Another cross grade, this was CGC 9 as well, red and blue, Alter Genesis. And this is a card that sells pretty consistently for me, like the tag teams in general. But just the full art Japanese trainer market has been so positive. Like, cards are just worth so much now. And even the stuff like this that wasn't selling that often, you're getting a pretty decent premium in PSA 10. So crossing this makes the most sense, like just objectively. And I think the next 3 cards are all the same. They are all CGC 9.5 Skylas that I had. And I think I was trying to sell them for like $50 to $60 CGC 9.5. And I don't think they were selling. I think that's a pretty decent price for what the card is. But I do think that it is closer to that $100 mark in the PSA 10. And, you know, based off inspecting the card, I would say there's like a pretty high chance that a CGC 9.5 for most cards can cross to the PSA 10. So yeah, I keep, like, I'm super redundant here. With like all these full art trainers, the premium in PSA 10 now just makes sense to at least chance it. I would even say like not even the 9.5s are worth cracking. Like I've cracked some CGC 9s that have crossed over, like the Reds Challenge. I've even cracked CGC 8s and 8.5s that have crossed the PSA 10 for the full arts. And there is like, it is so hard to explain how much better the card is to sell in that CGC, in that PSA 10. One example I think of is the Giovanni Scheme from, what set is it? I'll have a photo up of it now. I forget the name. I think it's Red Flash. It might be Red Flash. XY card. I had it in a CGC 8.5 listed for $46 on eBay. I think I got a couple offers, $35. You know, relatively close to my asking price, but I eventually decided to just say, screw it. I'm going to crack it, regrade it with PSA. Comes back a PSA 10. I listed it for $480, and somebody sent me an offer and I ended up getting $460 for that card in 10. So we're looking at a card that I couldn't even sell for $46 in a CGC 8.5. I regrade with PSA and it comes back 10x the value of the CGC copy. Like, that's so insane that that type of opportunity still exists. So yeah, in general, I've cracked a lot of my CGC stuff. I'm not even gonna grade with them anymore. Those half grades are impossible to sell because nobody's searching for half grades of cards. Nobody wants to buy the 8.5 of the cards that I have, or in general. I mean, it has to be like a super premium card, a card that's like worth at least $1,000 to even justify it. And I think a lot of people who are buying like CGC 8.5s are looking to cross them over to PSA 9, PSA 10. But yeah, that was just like a small tangent, something that I've been thinking about a lot. And people have asked me here and there what I'm thinking about CGC, if I'm still going to grade with them. Yeah, no, I haven't even renewed my membership. And then we'll go over the last 2 cards. I think these are both full arts. Yeah, this is a sick card to me. Plasma Gale Articuno full art in the PSA 10. This is just awesome artwork. All of the Plasma EX full arts are amazing. The way they put the Team Plasma logo there. I love cards that have like unique lighting, and all of them are like super underlit, so you create this great shadow effect on the Pokemon that really makes them look like menacing. Something that if you've handled a lot of black and white cards, the edges are actually not great in general. And I think the print quality and the quality control coming out of the factories wasn't great, but you can kind of see the edges look super soft, that they're kind of like rounded over, which to me used to look like edgeware, but I'm realizing it is just like the manufacturing process of the cards. And this card's so insane to me. 2012 full art So this is a 2012 secret rare full art for a relatively popular Pokemon, Gen 1 Pokemon. And it's like less than $300 in a 10. Obviously that's still up from where it was a year ago, but it is such a cool card for the value. Like you can collect a lot of the black and white secret rares for less than $250 each. And the last card is another black and white secret rare. Oh, I guess, yeah, this is the secret rare from the set. The Shaman EX full art with this crazy pattern on top of it. I graded one of these in PSA 8, and we finally crossed over to a PSA 10. You can kind of see what I'm talking about too. On the top of this one also looks like it has like a softer edge, which I just think is manufacturing. And I mean, that's just a spectacular card. I think I got upcharged by PSA on this one though. I sent all of these cards at $15 each for grading, and this one got upcharged like to $19. So $4 more. I also like, if you want to grade with PSA, I would say it's honestly worth it just to send everything at $15. If there's any issues and they upcharge you, they're pretty fast with it, and they'll get the cards back to you within like a day of you paying the upcharges. So yeah, that's it for this return. I hope I kind of got my thoughts across well on why I won't be grading with CGC no more. And I hope you see some cards. You've probably seen all these cards before, but I hope you maybe saw something cool. Thanks for watching, and have a nice one, guys. See ya.